What's going on, everyone? Today we are taking a look at the Vtoman FlashSpeed 1500, and then over here we have the Vtoman Jump 1800. So I've had several people ask me questions concerning these two power stations and their differences, so I figured I would make a comparison video just to make it a little easier. Overall, they're pretty similar, but do have some differences that may or may not matter to you. So if you happen to be torn between these two units, hopefully this video will help you out. And even if you're not familiar with these, definitely stick around, as these are some of the best bang for your buck power stations on the market. So taking a look at the power stations, as you can see, they both have the signature Vtoman look with the orange and black colors. This one looks a little more modern and techy with the glossy panel here in the middle, whereas the Jump 1800 looks a little more low profile with the all matte black look. Coming up top on the FlashSpeed 1500, you have two carrying handles. So you can go ahead and carry it with two hands, one on each side. Whereas on the Jump 1800, you just have this one handle. But what I like about this one is this handle is removable. So coming to the front, as you can see, the Jump 1800 is already a shorter unit. They're about the same height when you include the handle. But like I just said, this is removable. So if you take that off, as you can see, there's a pretty significant difference in the height. So if you need to tuck the power station under something in a tighter area, that's where this one might have that benefit of being a little shorter. And just to compare the sizes, as you can see, the Jump 1800 is also a little more narrow. So all around, it is a smaller unit. And then if I stack them on top, the Jump 1500 is slightly a little more thinner. This is about 1 inch thicker overall, but unless they're side by side, you're really not going to notice. Another difference these have is the weight. So with the FlashSpeed 1500, this one comes in at 41.4 pounds. And then the Jump 1800 comes in at 38.5 pounds. So almost a 3-pound difference. Again, unless you're carrying both of them, you're probably not going to notice too much of a difference. But then again, on the other hand, if you're going to be carrying and moving the power station around a lot, that's where you might be better off with the Jump 1800 for its slightly lighter weight. When it comes to battery capacity, these both have the same capacity of 1,548 watt hours. And both of these have LiFePO4 batteries that are rated to maintain 80% capacity for at least 3,000 cycles. So even if you're using the power station every single day, you still get 10 to 15 years of usage out of the unit. These are both expandable as well. Each of them have their own expansion battery, and they can both be expanded to 3,096 watt hours. So you can either get them together as a kit, the power station and the battery, or you could always get the power station and later on pick up the battery when you have more finances and expand as you go. When it comes to the ports, they're both nearly identical as well. So as you can see over here, we have two 100 watt USB-C ports. We have 4 USB-A ports and 3 AC outlets. And over here, we have the same exact setup. Right here in the top right, we have your jumper cable port and your expansion battery port. So these both have the jump starter option where you can grab the power station, hook it up to a jump starter cable, and jumpstart your car battery directly from the power station. This is not something you'll find on any other power station, so that is unique to Vtoman's lineup. The only difference for the ports would be how you charge them. So right here with the Vtoman FlashSpeed 1500, you have a direct AC cord, just your standard 3-prong cable like you will have on a computer or something like that. Just plug that in, you could charge the power station directly from that. Whereas this one, you have a charging brick that you will need to plug into this port right here. The other key difference between these power stations is the power handling. So the FlashSpeed 1500 can do a max of 1,500 watts with a peak of 3,000 watts. And then the Jump 1800 can do 1,800 watts with a peak of 2,600 watts. So with either unit, you have a ton of ports. We can run a lot of items at once. Tech has a very small draw. Most household items do. So with either of these, you're going to be able to load them both up and probably still have plenty of power left over. A regular household outlet tops out at about 1,800 watts. So the FlashSpeed 1500 is probably going to be able to run about 90% of all things that you have in your house. Whereas the Jump 1800 is going to be able to run 100% of everything that plugs into a regular 15 amp outlet. So if you're someone that runs higher powered items or think you might be running more than 1,500 watts often, that's where you might be better off with the Jump 1800. Another feature these power stations have is called Vbeyond technology. This lets the power station run higher powered items at a lower wattage. So for example, if you had a 3000 watt heater and you plug that into a 1500 watt power station, almost every power station out there will just try to deliver its power, and it'll be too much of a draw, so it'll shut itself off. But the Vtoman will recognize it's trying to draw more power than it can put out, and instead of giving that power, it'll instead only deliver what it can and run that item at a lower wattage. So this lets you run more powerful items than you normally would be able to with power stations of this size. So on the Jump 1800, this one can run a max of 3600 watts, and then the FlashSpeed can run up to 3000 watts. So a 600 watt difference there that these power stations can drive. Again, it's not going to give that full power, but you are going to be able to run more with that technology. All right, so right here I have two electric heaters. These both pull about 1300 watts each, so 2600 combined. Let's go ahead and try to run this on the power station. As I said, normally a power station of this size will detect that draw and shut off, so you won't be able to do it. But thanks to that Vbeyond technology, we should be able to run them. We'll go ahead and see the differences that the wattage puts out as well. I'm not going to do too many tests on the inverter or the battery capacity. I already did all of that. So if you want to check out more detailed reviews of these power stations, check out my channel, as I do have a dedicated video for each one. All right, so I just turned on this heater and I have it set to the highest mode. This is probably going to start at about 1500 watts, something like that. And then it'll dial down to about 1300 watts. So there we have it, 1100 watts, 1200 watts, 13, 14, and it's going to settle back down to about 1200. All right, so it's settled about 1100. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn on this other heater. This is going to have a high peak power, but then it's going to step it down and run them at lower wattages. So there we have it, 1600 watts, almost 1800, 1900, almost 2000 watts. It peaked out for a second, so very impressive considering that this is only rated for 1500 watts. And instead of shutting it off, like I said, it recognized the much larger load and dialed it back down to what it can handle, which is right there at 1554 watts. So again, definitely very impressive. As you can see, two electric heaters. Again, they're not getting their full power, but running two of these at partial power is definitely going to give me more heat and more spread compared to running just one. So that does have its benefits there. So again, that one's putting about 1550. Let's go ahead and try these on the Jump 1800 and see what we get with that one. All right, so here we go. First heater turned on, set to the highest mode. Same as before, drop down to about 1100 watts. Turn on the second one, also set to the highest mode. Went about 1800 watts now. It clicked on 2200 watts for a second, about a little over 2100. And now it's dialing everything back down with that Vbeyond technology. But as you can see, this one is letting it run at a much higher limit. So we're right there at 1800. It's probably gonna stop about 1850 again, 1870, 1880. So it looks like it's handling a much larger load past its rated power. Right about a little under 1900 watts. Definitely impressive since this is only rated for 1800 watts. So as you can see, the inverters do work as advertised. In my other video, I let these both run higher loads for several minutes, and they do hold on to that and run no problems at all. So as you can see, the Jump 1800 gets the edge on power handling, while the FlashSpeed 1500 has the advantage of faster charging. Both have their use cases. It just comes down to how you plan to use the power station and which feature is going to be more beneficial to you. Overall, these are both going to be great for home backup, camping, outdoor parties, a small off-grid setup, or pretty much anywhere else where you might need portable power. One benefit that I forgot to mention with the FlashSpeed 1500 is, yes, it's taller, but you also get the addition of storage space. So with this one, you can put the charging cables, your solar cables, all your power station related things right here. And basically, if you take the power station, automatically you have your stuff as well. Even if you don't want to store power station related things, this here has a good depth of about 2.5, 3 inches maybe. So you can store power banks in here, USB cables, even 1 or 2 small speakers. So you get a slight bonus of having a little bit of storage built into the power station. Again, it just comes down to if you're okay with the taller height, or do you prefer something a little bit shorter to fit in a tighter space. So I know there's a lot of people out there that get nervous when it comes to storing large batteries like this in their house, but rest assured you don't have anything to worry about, as all Vtoman power stations come with their Life BMS protection. This includes a ton of different ways to keep the battery safe, including overheating protection, spark protection, over voltage protection, and a lot more. I'll throw an image up on the screen so you can see what they all are as well. And again, both of these power stations have that same protection. Overall, these are both very solid units. I own quite a few power stations from Vtoman and they've all been reliable without any issues. So this is definitely a brand that I trust. Between these two, you really can't go wrong either way. Like I said earlier, it just comes down to how you plan to use the power station and which features are more important to you. If you would like to purchase or get more information on either of these, I'll also have the links in the description as well. All right, well, that wraps up this video. As usual, if you have any questions at all, feel free to drop me a comment and let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.